Hey guys, how's it going out there? Hope you guys are doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about some good old MCU news. We're going to be specifically talking about the recent Ironheart trailer that just released. And I'm going to be honest, I forgot that this show was happening. I remember there was a point where this show wasn't going to happen, but I thought that this show was going to be the War Machine show. Not Ironheart, but I thought there was a point where they were going to scrap this show and then they were just going to focus on the War Machine show, which was going to be called like Armor Wars or something like that, which I don't think's happening. And so I wasn't sure this show was actually going to ever get made because I know recently Marvel's been doing a lot of changes to their movies and TV shows and trying to scale back everything because for a while there, they just lost their fucking mind. They were like making it seemed like a dozen fucking Marvel shows and movie spin-offs, and they had a Koya, the Dora Milaje chick from Wakanda. They had a short series that they were going to do of her until they canceled it. I mean, it seemed like every character in the MCU was going to have their own miniseries or their own movie or show at some point at the rate they were going, but Marvel realized that, like, yeah, we probably need to pull back. So they have really scaled back a lot of their shows. So I didn't think that Ironheart would actually make it, but it did. And watched the trailer, and I don't know. One of my problems with the MCU is that they just have so many fucking characters now, like so many, and they don't have anything for them to do. And now they're adding another character. Like, I mean, I don't know when Ironheart's going to show up again. I mean, she might be in Doomsday, she might be in Secret Wars, but beyond that, who the hell knows when she's going to show up again? And I don't know. I just seeing the trailer, it looked okay-ish. It looked all right. And it's funny because I talked about this years ago, way before Ironheart was actually considered for a show. And I'm not a big fan of the whole like giving mantles to different people, like how Sam's the new Captain America, and now Riri Williams is like the new technical Iron Man, and like they kind of have this trend they've been doing in the comic books and the movies of like trying to give other characters the mantle of other characters, and it just doesn't work. And with Ironheart, I can't say I'm a fan of the comic version or I'm looking forward to the show. I probably won't watch it for a while, but I feel like if they had done this differently, I think this could have worked better. The way I think this could have been a bit better is if they had made Riri Williams a complete polar opposite of Tony Stark in a lot of ways. And I mean, I guess the Riri Williams and the show is going to be a lot different than Tony Stark. But what I mean is like instead of how Tony Stark was very charismatic, very narcissistic, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, you could have Riri Williams be the opposite, where she's socially awkward, she's poor, she's kind of self-conscious, where she's not sure if she's adequate. She's not sure if her talents actually kind of are what she thinks they are. She's unsure about the things that she can make. She doesn't have the money or the resources to actually make things that she wants to, but she has the knowledge to. She has the intellect, but she doesn't have the resources like Tony Stark. I mean, you could also even have it to where you could tie War Machine, Pepper Potts, and Ironheart together, where you could have Rhodey have like a school or something for people who are like want to do like IT or MIT, where there's like a program for like not the next like Iron Man, but like for people who have the knowledge and who have the mind for it, but they don't have the resources like Tony Stark. And you could have Riri, almost, yeah, almost sound like I said retard for a sec. Anyways, but you could have War Machine, James James Rhodes, be like an instructor for Riri. Like she applies for this program like a like almost like a tribute. Because in that way, it's also a tribute to Tony Stark and Iron Man. You have this program in his honor, people who want to, want to be heroes, who want to help save people, who want to help make the world a better place, who want to use technology for the betterment of society. And you could have Ironheart be taken up in this class, and she trains underneath, War Machine. Because I really think if you're gonna have someone as like a an instructor or someone who's gonna be like kind of training people for an Iron Man type deal, I mean, Rhodes is pretty much the best you got. Like, he knew Tony Stark for a long time. Although, fuck, then again, uh, that's also kind of tricky because I forgot because of what was that show? Fucking Secret Invasion, the one with Nick Fury. Yeah, now I just forgot that. Yeah, so James Rhodes actually has been out of commission canonically since Civil War. Actually, like he hasn't been in the MCU because it turned out in Secret Invasion that that the War Machine we saw in Infinity War and Endgame, and I think even in something else, but those two movies was actually a scroll. And so the actual James Rhodes has been like in captivity for like years. So damn, I forgot all about that. But I mean, anyways, nonetheless, the non-scroll War Machine still is like the most experienced, the most connected to Tony Stark, who could actually, be someone who could have an authority of like training people who want to make like Iron Man like tech. And I think that'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be cool for Rhodes, for him to do something. Because, like I was saying earlier about how War Machine shows kind of just, kind of been going back and forth between dying. You could just combine them and have War Machine, and you could have Ironheart in the same show, and you could have War Machine be like an instructor, teacher for Riri Williams. And I think that'd be cool. But something else I would like to see with like an Ironheart or Riri Williams, especially since she's supposed to be not like a kid, but she's, a teenager. I would like to see a lot of the trial and error of her becoming a hero. Because I mean, even Tony Stark, when he made his Iron Man armor, there was a lot of fuck ups. Like that whole montage of him failing with different parts of the Iron Man suit and trying to get the gadgets to work all correctly. I think it would be cool to see, especially this teenager who doesn't have the money or the resources that Tony Stark did, having to use what she can find and then having to use resources that are like pretty much lended to her to try to make things, and then struggling to try to make those work, or she makes a part of a suit and it doesn't quite work, or she makes like a gadget that works but it's not fully operational. I think that'd be kind of cool because, see, the thing with a character like Riri, since she is so young, you could see like the progression of her character. So like if they make her a main character, 10 years from now, you could have her as like a seasoned veteran at that point where you see, a start point to where she is now, like, and this is going to sound like a wild comparison, but it kind of reminds me of like anime, like in One Piece or Naruto, where, you see how they start off, pretty much no abilities at the very bottom of, power levels. And then you see them at the end or near the end of their journeys, and you're like, wow, look at how far they've come. Like how Luffy versus Kizaru on Egghead. Like how far Luffy's come from being fucking nearly killed from Kizaru a decade plus to now fucking ragdolling him. Like, that type of progression, it's very satisfying. If you pull it off right and if you put the amount of work into it, it can be satisfying to see that type of progression. And when you have a character like Riri, who's a teenager, you can have her, be a main character for 10, 11, 13 years. And she's like, mid 20s, 30s. But by that point, she's experienced, she's been part of Avengers teams, and she's been in space. She's been, she's been around. She's had the trial and error, and she's, been, with the best of the best. She's fought with all different types of heroes. She's fought all different types of villains, and she has that experience. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be an enjoyable story arc to see. Yeah, but I don't know if we're going to get that. I realistically, I don't think none of that's going to happen. I think from the way the trailer looks, she's going to be like another trend I have not been a fan of in the MCU. This every teenager's a fucking Einstein, Oppenheimer genius. Where, Cassie Lang, she made like some quantum deal and she's like 15 or something. And then you got fucking Riri now. Then you had Shuri. It's just like, I get that you want to have these like empowered, young girls and young women, but like not everyone has to be a fucking super genius. I mean, even in the original Avengers, Tony Stark was the super intelligent one. And then you had Bruce Banner, who was super smart, but then you had characters who weren't like, you had Captain America, who's not dumb, but he's not, 10,000 IQ like Tony Stark. And then you had Hawkeye, you had Thor, knowledgeable, yes, because of how old he was, but he wasn't a super genius. So you had a well-rounded team of different types of, characters, backgrounds. And I feel like now if they try to do like a Young Avengers thing, you're just going to have a group of pretty much interchangeable teenagers who have the same character traits, minus a few different, little changes that you can really interchange. Like, Shuri, I mean, now I guess you can't do that now because she's Black Panther, but pre-Black Panther 2, Shuri and Riri Williams were the same character. The only difference was Ironheart was American and Shuri was Wakandan and from royalty, where they're both young, teenage, or hell, I guess that's what's it, oxymoron? Young teenage. Anyways, they're both teenagers, black teenage girls, super geniuses that make these amazing creations. You could pretty much interchange both of them. And minus one being Wakandan American, there's damn near no difference. Like, I mean, they were pretty much the same character. And so I would hope with this show that they would kind of try to make Riri a little bit different from that mold, but I honestly don't think so. I think she's just going to be a super intelligent, perfect, all of her inventions are going to work. I mean, that fucking Iron Man, whatever, Iron Man, Iron Woman, Iron Girl, that suit that she has made in the trailer is like on par with like something that like a Tony Stark would have made in his workplace. So the fact that she's already making that thing already and it seems to be fully functional and battle ready, I mean, that kind of already shows that like, yeah, she's going to be super genius, super smart, everything. She might have one minor setback or something, but it doesn't look like she's going to really have any type of actual issues or actual types of like trials to deal with, or like a villain that's going to be a real hard counter to her. It seems like it's not going to be that type of story for her, which is unfortunate. I just wish that they would kind of kill this trend of the whole fucking young, super 10,000 IQ teenager. I mean, even Spider-Man kind of falls in that territory too. I mean, I guess he's like 20s now, but nonetheless, in that same vein. But yeah, I'm curious to see what the reaction's going to be because, to no surprise, I mean, Ironheart has not been I wouldn't say she's a dislike. No, that's being dishonest. No, she is a fucking hated character in the comics. She was hated in the comics before Endgame and Infinity War came out. So yeah, she was hated even before Marvel was on the decline. I remember watching several videos of people just trashing her, talking about how she just needs to be a villain because of how horrible she was. Which I remember reading a few comics with her, and yeah, she did seem to be not the nicest person. So I hope that they kind of shed those aspects of her for the show, because this show already kind of has an uphill battle between people either A, not caring about this character, or B, just review bombing it. So if her character is not the best, yeah, this might be just kind of fucked all around. But yeah, I'm interested. And also, before I wrap up here, something I found out before I started making this. Apparently, the co-creator for Ironheart hasn't got paid for Riri Williams being in the MCU, which is that's interesting because I think that's kind of a trend I noticed, and I guess that's part of why Alan Moore has just had a vengeful hatred for the comic book industries, because it seems like they tend to fuck over authors and creators of characters when they get adapted. And I mean, now, granted, you could argue that Marvel technically doesn't owe them anything since like they own the character, but still, I mean, they didn't make the character. You would think that they would get some type of compensation. But it seems like no, that's not the case for Riri Williams, and it seems like that's not just for Riri, but I've heard that from several different comic book characters that like the creators or co-authors have like seen nothing, like no money from all the shows and movies and spin-offs and games that they're in. They've seen no money from that, which is fucking crazy, especially when you think about Marvel. I mean, yeah, Marvel's not in the best place now, but it's not like Marvel's like some struggling to stay afloat company. Like they could, they could front the cash for that. Surely, I know they could for sure. But yeah, but besides that, that's all I really got to say about the trailer. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna be watching this day one or even fucking this year, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye out just to see what goes on. If anything, just to see the highlights of what goes on with Ironheart. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. And till next time, I'll see you good people later.